Lord. Good evening. Welcome to Victory News. It's Tuesday, January the 21st, 2025. I'm Greg Stevens, along with Mike Garofalo, Fiora Hernandez, and Tim Fox. These are the stories that we're watching for you tonight. Hours after taking office, President Trump shut down the CBP One app that migrants have been using to illegally enter the United States. Ahead, conservative radio host George Rodriguez will discuss the security changes finally coming to our southern borders. And President Trump has pardoned or commuted the sentences of most January 6 detainees. Now, many wonder if Joe Biden's dragnet to round them all up was legal. We'll talk with conservative commentator Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Hicks Calloway about this and more. But first, let's go to Fiora Hernandez with our headlines. Fiora.
Thank you, Greg. Just hours after Donald Trump took the oath of office, good things started to happen around the world, including the release of 2 American hostages being held in Afghanistan. In exchange for the Americans' freedom, the United States agreed to release a Taliban terrorist serving a life sentence in California. Ryan Corbett is one of those released by the Taliban. He has been held captive in Afghanistan for the last 2 years after being captured while on a business trip. According to reports, the other American is William McKenty. Not much is known about him, but we do know his family has asked for privacy. In one of many executive orders signed by President Donald Trump on Monday, he pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord. The withdrawal was listed under Trump's Make America Affordable and Energy Dominant Again agenda. He also declared an energy emergency. During his inaugural speech, Trump laid out plans for U.S. energy dominance by putting America first.
We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world.
Trump said pulling out of the accord would save the United States trillions. In 2017, during his first administration, Trump pulled the U.S. of the climate agreement Barack Obama signed in 2015. The Climate Accord is an international treaty aimed at combating so-called climate change. Joe Biden rejoined the Climate Accord in 2021. After former President Joe Biden issued a number of high-profile preemptive pardons before leaving office, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul on Monday said Dr. Anthony Fauci's only solidifies his belief that the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases was responsible for the COVID-19 crisis. And in a post, the Republican from Kentucky pledged to continue the investigation into the origins of the virus, saying, quote, "As chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, I will not rest until the entire truth of the cover-up is exposed. Fauci's pardon will only serve as an accelerant to pierce the veil of deception." Paul said Anthony Fauci will go down in history as the first government scientist to be preemptively pardoned for a crime. Mike?
Donald Trump had a lot to say about those last-minute pardons by his predecessor. The new president got right to business Monday night in the Oval Office, signing executive orders on a number of matters, all while taking questions from reporters.
I was surprised that President Biden would go and pardon his whole family, because that makes him look very guilty. You know, I could have pardoned my family. I could have pardoned myself, my family. And I said, if I do that, it's going to make me look very guilty. I don't think I'd be sitting here, frankly.
Trump spoke about ending illegal immigration, a possible deal with TikTok that would give the United States partial ownership, and ending the war in Ukraine. When asked about Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela,
we're going to probably stop buying oil from Venezuela. We don't need their oil.
Trump also warned about the BRICS countries threatening the dominance of the U.S. dollar.
They were looking to do a number in the United States. And if they do that, they won't be happy about what's going to happen to them.
The 47th president also held a meeting of House and Senate GOP leaders at the White House this afternoon to further discuss implementing his agenda, and then a press conference announcing a massive infrastructure plan is underway this hour. And late last night, President Trump pardoned most January 6 defendants when he signed an executive order in the Oval Office. The order released more than 1,500 Americans who have been charged with crimes from attending the January 6, 2021 protests at the U.S. Capitol.
Daddy's home.
While the Federal Bureau of Prisons began releasing men and women immediately, others, like the D.C. jail, took their time. Joe Biden's Justice Department criminally prosecuted Marine Corps Captain Christopher Kuhn for attending the protest. He did not hurt anyone and did not come to D.C. to commit any offenses, yet the Biden administration persecuted him for political purposes. His wife posted the moment he learned of his pardon from President Donald Trump.
It's been 4 years. 4 years of fighting, 4 years of struggling, and I'm finally free. I don't even have the words to thank President Trump.
This is just one of countless stories of joy across this country today. Several advocacy groups led by the American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit Monday evening challenging Donald Trump's executive order addressing birthright citizenship. The ACLU claimed the administration is violating the 14th Amendment by denying citizenship to children born in the U.S. regardless of parental citizenship or legal status of residence in the U.S. Reportedly, the executive order specifies one parent must have a green card, a legal permanent residency status, for the child born to receive U.S. citizenship automatically. Experts allege it's beyond a president's power to change the Constitution, but in announcing his executive order, Donald Trump made mention of the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, not changing it. WISN News reported legal analysts expect battles all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Greg.
Donald Trump's first cabinet nominee to be voted on by the full Senate last night, who took oath of office this morning, was former Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Now he's the Secretary of State.
Everything we do must be justified by the answer to one of three questions. Does it make us stronger? Does it make us safer? And does it make us more prosperous? If it doesn't do one of those three things, we will not do it.
The son of Cuban immigrants finished with this.
I want to end by thanking Almighty God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That is truly the singular purpose of our lives. It's the most important priority. It's the only thing that will matter when we take our last breath.
As for Donald Trump's other nominees, sources say the FBI and Senate Democrats are stalling the confirmation process for the Director of National Intelligence. According to Breitbart News, former Representative Tulsi Gabbard is facing a delay after delay in her confirmation process. Democrats' procedural delays could push the hearing into next week and the full Senate vote into February. Trump allies point out that Joe Biden's DNI nominee, Avril Haines, was confirmed on Inauguration Day in 2021. Joining us now is retired U.S. Lieutenant Colonel and Victory News contributor Vanessa Hicks Calloway. Vanessa, welcome back to Victory News.
Thank you, Greg. It's a thrill to be with you and your listeners and viewers today.
Thank you. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, well, she's up for Director of National Intelligence, an important position. Is the only Trump nominee on the national security team to not have a Senate hearing scheduled yet. You think this is because she's a former Democrat that left, or perhaps giving time for her predecessor to clean things up at the Biden administration? Or is the FBI and the Democrats, are they just dragging their feet?
Well, it's the first one and the third one. The Democrats are dragging their feet, and also they are very upset with Tulsi Gabbard because, as you know, when she ran for president back for the 2020 election, on stage, she exposed Kamala Harris for her failures as the AG for the state of California. She also ended up exposing Kamala Harris on this most recent campaign trail when President Trump was running against Kamala Harris. So the Democrats, they aren't very happy with Tulsi Gabbard right now. But we have to ask ourselves, is them being the Democrats dragging their feet, is this really helping America? Is this helping us to be safer? Is this helping us to be stronger? This is an issue of national security. And I believe that this is all politically motivated and the Democrats need to be held accountable. I think that in the news that the Trump administration needs to continue to push and make it known that this is political and this is not good for the country.
I forgot all about her debate performance. Thank you for reminding me of this. That's very interesting. Elise Stefanik appeared on Capitol Hill today for her hearing with Senate members to review her nomination as United Nations ambassador. Senator Chris Murphy, he opened with this question.
What do you think of Elon Musk, perhaps the president's most visible advisor, doing 2 Heil Hitler salutes last night at the president's televised rally?
No, Elon Musk did not do those. What concerns me is these are the questions you believe are most important to ask to the UN ambassador. I have a very strong record when it comes to combating anti-Semitism.
Now, someone's enthusiastic gesture has nothing to do with Stefanik becoming the United Nations ambassador. Lieutenant Colonel, how does Senator Murphy make this accusation and never address Kamala Harris for the same action and other Democrats like Barack Obama, Liz Warren, Hillary Clinton, to name a few?
Well, it's all about the rhetoric and the narrative. The Democrat Party and this individual wants to try to send the message that everyone that supports President Trump, in particular someone like Elon Musk, who is a very close ally and someone that President Trump is depending upon, especially as it relates to Doge, they want to act as if these individuals are somehow substandard, that are somehow anti-Semitic. And I know that Elon Musk, there is no way that what he did was a Hitler salute. Elon Musk is an enigma. He is a very interesting, strange, odd individual, but yet very brilliant. So his antics, to include when he jumped around on stage, remember during President Trump's campaign, he's just an odd individual. And I think that the American people know the difference between a Hitler salute and what Elon Musk did. It's much to do about nothing. It's a storm in a teacup.
All right, let's go to another one here. The Reverend Marianne Buddy, the Episcopal Bishop of Washington, she skipped the sermon and gave a political speech to President Donald Trump today in the National Cathedral. Here's a part of it.
There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives.
Now, Vanessa, you and I have heard a lot of great sermons. I don't think that's one of them, but this sounds like she's parroting LGBTQ activist propaganda. Have you ever heard the man we watched dance to YMCA this week, throughout his campaign even, ever threaten anyone with their lives?
Not at all. I think the individuals that are now fearing for their lives are the Democrats. They know that they're being absolutely exposed for this nonsense. Some of the rhetoric that comes across in terms of now we have children that are so-called LGBTQ fearing for their lives. Totally. We need to push back on that. It is not true. And I think this reverend, that's total blasphemy. She should be ashamed.
All right, Colonel, thank you so much. We'll bring you back in a little bit. Mike?
Greg, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's confirmation hearing for United Nations ambassador began this morning.
I will work to ensure that our mission to the United Nations serves the interests of the American people and represents President Trump's America First, peace through strength foreign policy.
The Republican also stressed good stewardship of taxpayer dollars.
The U.S. is the largest contributor to the UN by far. Our tax dollars should not be complicit in propping up entities that are counter to American interests, anti-Semitic, or engaging in fraud, corruption, or terrorism.
Stefanik highlighted the United Nations founding mission of international peace and security. She added it had not lived up to it, emphasizing we must demand better. Fior.
Mike, with the resignation of Florida Representative Mike Waltz, who is now Donald Trump's national security advisor, the Republican majority in the House is just 3 votes, 218 to 215. Waltz's departure comes as House Republicans have struggled to unify amid intra-party division over government spending, the TikTok ban, and other differences in ideology. A special election will be held in Florida in April to elect Mike Waltz's replacement in Congress. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman spoke out on Monday night to squash rumors that he might be switching parties. According to Semaphore.com, Fetterman told the publication the idea that he would leave the Democrat Party and become a Republican is akin to amateur hour, adding, if they think, oh, it's going to be like a mansion or a cinema play, that's just not true, and that's not going to happen. The Semaphore article also says Fetterman privately told Democrats he is not going anywhere, let alone across the aisle. Tim?
Definitely marches to the beat of his own drummer, for sure. You know, Donald Trump's inaugural address on Monday, the 47th President of the United States declared something many supporters have referred to since the summer.
Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again.
To be sure, Trump's path to the White House has been fraught with hateful attacks, invasions of his privacy, and unfair accusations. But Romans 13:1 states, "There is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God." We can only thank God for his protection over Mr. Trump. We also thank the Lord for that we now get to see what it all meant and what it will lead to as Donald Trump leads this nation. And on Flashpoint Monday night, Gene Bailey was live from Washington, D.C. on what will surely be remembered as one of the most remarkable days in our nation's history.
Mark, good to see you. Give me your take on this first day of Trump's presidency.
Yeah, I watched all day. To me, it was a joyous day. I mean, that's the best feeling I can describe. It's just pure joy. Seeing pride in America, seeing a forward-looking America, seeing a strong America with a strong leader at the helm again. Absolutely incredible. His speech was probably the single best political speech I've ever seen. Not so much for delivery, but for content. He was just so bold as to talk about manifest destiny, increasing our territory, reaching for the stars, landing on Mars. Incredible forward-thinking speech.
Gene, I've had a roller coaster of a day, man. I've cried, honestly. I've wept with joy today. In fact, just a few minutes ago, I'm sorry if my eyes are red, but when I watched Donald Trump sign that pardon for 1,500 J6ers, commute 6 of those sentences, and there's a handful that they're going to investigate. It's happening, man. It's real. It's no longer just speeches. Yeah. Hank says it all the time. Justice is coming. It is here, man. It's here, and it just feels surreal. I'm pinching myself. I think maybe the glaring evil from Joe Biden that right up to the last minute pardoning his own family and just the lack of honor, the disgrace that this administration going out has been, makes this all the more emotional because we knew how close we were to losing our country. So it's just been an amazing day.
Now, Gene will be coming to you from Washington, D.C. on tonight's program, and you can watch any episode of Flashpoint by visiting govictory.com/Flashpoint. Mike?
One of Donald Trump's first actions after taking office was declaring a national emergency at the southern border. He also shut down the CBP One app created by the Biden administration for migrants to use to illegally enter the United States. The app allowed illegal immigrants to schedule asylum appointments with U.S. immigration officials once they reached Mexico City or states in northern Mexico. Republicans have been heavily critical of the app, with some saying it was used to hide illegal immigration. On its website, U.S. Customs and Border Protection stated effective January 20th, 2025, the functionalities of CBP One that previously allowed undocumented aliens to submit advance information and schedule appointments at 8 southwest border points of entry is no longer available, and existing appointments have been canceled. Let's bring in radio talk show host and podcaster El Conservador George Rodriguez. George, of the southern border no longer open to all comers. President Trump has declared a state of emergency, describing the past 4 years as a, quote, invasion. Listen to this update from Oscar Ramirez from Real America's Voice.
A massive caravan has left the south border of Tapachula, Chiapas. Around 2,000 migrants from the entities of Central America and South America.
So, George, how will the state of emergency affect that caravan hoping to cross from Mexico into the United States?
Well, rather than having a welcome mat like we have the past 4 years, we will be able to use federal resources that are supposed to protect our border, that are supposed to stop invasions. We will now see military, if necessary. We will see greater use of the Border Patrol to turn people away rather than welcoming them. We're going to see a lot of things now, thanks to President Trump doing what's supposed to be done to protect our border.
Now, George, watch this video clip closely, and right at the end, you'll see Joe Biden tapping Joe on the leg to stop what he was saying.
I'm proud of is that you did it upholding the core values of honesty, decency, and integrity. I mean, no scandal. I mean, it's incredible what you did.
Now, she wanted him to stop saying no scandals, and you're looking at why on the screen. Joe Biden's presumptive pardons of his family members. George, what was your reaction when you learned about this yesterday? His brother, sister-in-law, other family members?
Well, as the scriptures say, the sick, sick are the ones that need doctors. The people that are well don't. In this case, we've got folks that are being pardoned who are supposedly innocent. And it makes you, again, just like Fauci, it makes you wonder how guilty really are they?
You know, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, George, was sworn in this morning as Secretary of State. He offered thanks to his Lord, his wife, and his children. Then the secretary told the audience what his guidelines are from the new president in approaching his work.
Everything we do, and this is true in government, but especially at the Department of State, everything we do must be justified by the answer to one of three questions. Does it make us stronger? Does it make us safer? And does it make us more prosperous? If it doesn't do one of those three things, we will not do it.
Stronger, safer, and more prosperous nation. The three motives for Marco Rubio and the Department of State. George, how do you think those measure up against what Anthony Blinken was using to make decisions while he headed the State Department?
Well, Blinken seemed to be working more from the idea of social justice and what was important for certain groups rather than for what is good for America. Rubio stated right there, if it's good for America in various ways, it's going to be something that they're going to pursue. One of the things that I'm very, very happy about is we're not going to see gay flags outside our embassies anymore.
Now, check out Elon Musk at the Trump rally on Sunday in Washington, D.C.
Feels like. Yeah! And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization.
So, George, do you believe, like Elon Musk, that this Trump victory was important for the world and not just the U.S.?
Definitely. What is good for America is good for the world. I know that a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of countries don't want to hear that. That's the fact. The reason that America is so much hated by dictators is because we are the light on the side of the hill. We are the ones that guide ourselves by the Lord, and therefore we are the ones that can lead the rest of the world in peace and prosperity.
Yeah, very valid point. Now, George, here's one of the many orders and actions President Donald Trump signed yesterday.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately.
So, George, what's your reaction to the president requiring all federal government employees having to return to the office for their daily work?
I can't help but laugh that you've got to tell federal workers to come back to work. I just can't. I can't believe that.
Yep. Be sure to check out George's new daily podcast at elconservador.net or online at elconservador_, that is conservador. Thanks for joining us today, George.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And turning to our attention to Israel, let's get the latest on the release of hostages deal between Israel and Hamas from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Saying that the best days of the U.S.-Israel alliance are yet to come, Prime Minister Netanyahu congratulated President Trump on his second presidential inauguration. The Prime Minister praised the key achievements of Trump's first term, including the Abraham Accords and the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The Prime Minister also thanked Trump for his role in reaching a hostage-for-ceasefire deal with Hamas. Hamas has confirmed that the next release of Israeli hostages will come on Saturday. 4 Israeli hostages are due to be freed on Saturday. Over the next 4 weeks, 3 hostages would be released every Saturday until a final group of 14 on day 42 of the ceasefire. Hamas is required to give the names of the 4 within 24 hours of the release. Hamas is also required to provide confirmation of which hostages due to be released in Phase 1 are living and which are dead. Steve Leibowitz for ILTV and Victory News.
Join us as we continue to pray for the hostages and for the peace of Jerusalem. Fior?
Tim, both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance attended the post-inaugural prayer service earlier today at the Washington National Cathedral. It was the 10th time the cathedral has hosted the prayer service. This year's theme was unity, something Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy says is foundational. But what she said did not sound unifying.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives.
The goal of the service was to push past the divisiveness of the 2024 election, but the bishop did appear to take some partisan jabs at the Trump administration when it comes to immigration, family values, and sexuality. Greg?
All right, before we go, let's talk with Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Hicks Calloway. You heard President Trump say in an earlier story he believes God spared his life in order to lead this nation again. Do you see this, the nation, as an important spiritual moment that we're in right now?
Yes, I definitely do. As a matter of fact, I compare it to Moses. For the last 4 years, we have basically been wandering around in a wilderness of extreme out of control inflation, out of control open borders. And so now I want us to think of things as Caleb and Joshua, where we have an opportunity to enter into the golden age, which is a form of a promised land. And so, yes, this is a very special time for Americans, especially for those of us that consider us to be the remnant, the Christians that did not allow our beliefs to be watered down. We are the Christians that pushed back on the rhetoric from the left, and we fought for our religious principles. We fought to make sure that President Trump got reelected in spite of lawfare. And so this is a very, very special moment for our history, for our nation, and we all have work to do.
Yeah, it's not over. You mentioned lawfare. Joe Biden did not pardon figures who were involved in lawfare cases against Donald Trump, including Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, New York Judge Juan Merchan, Fonnie Willis in Fulton County. Why do you think they missed out on the preemptive pardons from Joe Biden?
Well, yes, that is very interesting. And I'm not sure I fully understand that because they definitely worked hard to try to destroy President Trump. And so I believe time will tell why they were not pardoned. So I am interested in that answer also. So I can't really say why that is because I'm actually surprised by that.
I am too. It'll be interesting to watch that. You can find out more about Vanessa at VanessaHicksCalloway.com. Colonel, thank you so much for the input you always bring and for being with us today.
You're very welcome. Be blessed.
Be blessed. Thank you. As we go today, there's a phone number right now on the bottom of the screen, 877-281-6297. A licensed prayer minister is trained, ready to pray with you. I thought of this as we were speaking with the Colonel. If Trump was spared to lead America, we're America. You and I are America. We the people. Meaning we have a responsibility too. She alluded to that. You and I, we can't stop now that he's president. We've got to continue to pray. We've got to continue to strengthen. We've got to continue to train. So let me ask you a question that an Israeli prophet named Micah asked when he was rebuilding Jerusalem. He said, "What does the Lord require of you?" It's Micah chapter 6, verse 8. It'd be interesting for you to look that up and see what the Lord does require of us. That can't stop now. Our thanks to Lieutenant Colonel Vanessa Hicks Calloway, George Rodriguez, and especially you. Thanks for joining us today. We are back tomorrow at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, with the Indiana Congresswoman Aaron Houghton and attorney and president of Texas Values, Jonathan Sainz. So make sure you join us as well. The world reports the problem. Victory Channel brings the answer. Whatever's born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that's overcome the world. Our stay in faith tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.